Old school or new school? This is always going to be a healthy debate. I suppose old school, you're really talking about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as curated by Helio Gracie, and things that keep that self-defense mindset. And a lot of guys term that as old school BJJ. New school would be probably the more sportive BJJ that you see nowadays. Now obviously that's developed over the years. You've got things like the Rubber Guard by Nino Schembri, and you've got De La Riva guards and some weird and wonderful funky things that are going on, 50-50s and those sort of things. And of course Eddie Bravo and the 10th Planet stuff. Now Eddie Bravo was a student under Jean-Jacques Machado. The Machados are the cousins of the Gracies. So really what we're looking at is all of this going back to a single point. And yes, there are developments in the art nowadays, but it's important to note that those developments are on the sportive side. It's very necessary. Guys like Eddie Bravo are very good for the sportive side of Jiu-Jitsu because they have an open mind and they come across new things, they instigate them and pull them into the art. People learn to counter it, and the counters come into the art as well, and there's other new techniques. So it's good for the art that there's all these different influences. Having said that, there is a concern that the more the sportive side of the art develops, okay, the further removed it comes from the core of Jiu-Jitsu. And the core of Jiu-Jitsu is actually fighting, okay, or defending yourself in a real situation. Now obviously when you look at some of the aspects of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu nowadays, you've got even guys that are putting together things like the Turtle Guard. Turtle Guard is here. As you can imagine, in a real fight, you know, you're gonna have a fight, yeah, brilliant. And you drop down in a turtle, all it's gonna get you is kicked in the head. So it's important to recognise that the sport of BJJ sometimes is moving further and further away from its roots. And this is sort of more old school self-defense stuff, and this is more new school sportive stuff. Some guys like Rorion Gracie, when he organised tournaments in the past, he tried to keep the rule set fairly real. He allowed slamming and that sort of thing. But I think it's important you just recognise what is what. If you compete and you're into some great funky flowy techniques which are great fun, then just recognise that that's what that is. That's a game, that's a sport, and that style probably wouldn't be appropriate in more of a self-defense scenario. Then you get guys like Rickson and Kron, his son, and those sort of guys would say, well, you know, old school works just as well in a sportive scenario. And Rickson, what did Rickson do? Takedown, top mount, armbar, or take you back into a choke. And he did it so well that he could do it on anyone. So there's also an argument there that says, well, actually, perhaps old school done well is just as good, even better in a sporting environment. Who knows? It's a long debate. My personal perspective is do both. If you have the luxury of time and you can develop two independent styles, you can say, right, this is old school. Top position, dominate, keep to the basics, but do them well, you know? And you could use that in a self-defense scenario, or, you know, to a certain extent, no-gi or whatever. But then, if you do that all the time, that's hard. You know, it's hard on your body, it's hard work, there's a lot of competitiveness and stress. Whereas sometimes it's nice to go, well, hey, let's relax, let's flow, you know, let's enjoy this, and let's keep the rotational movements going, and let's not maintain a position and be too competitive, and just enjoy it. And there's space for that as well. So I think if you have the luxury of time, then develop both. If you haven't got the luxury of time and you only want to compete, do the sportive, the new school stuff. If you haven't got the luxury of time and you're concerned about self-defense, do this. Each is good in its own way.